mission given to me by Woody Shaw, Sunship, Dizzy, and John Kahn, dedicated to pursuing a piece of our cultural heritage through interviews with my music heroes. This is The Jake Feinberg Show. Folks, welcome inside the Paris. Sea Palace high above 2919 East Broadway. This is a live edition of The Jake Feinberg Show, coming to you live on Power Talk. Please go to our website, powertalk.live. Download our free app and stream all of our live local programming, including Solomon on Blast. Let's talk about it with my man Dave and the Jim Parisi Show, and yours truly, the Jake Feinberg Show. We can't thank you enough for making us part of your day today. And without further ado, as I continue to tap into my generation of musicians, I'm always searching for cats that have good technical chops, but ultimately inside have the feel, the primal scream inside that they allow to come out on the bandstand, having big ears, being able to communicate with the masters and their peers. Carmen and Intorre, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show.
Hey, Jake. Thanks for having me.
How you
Appreciate
doing?
It.
Yeah, man. How you been, man? It's been too long.
A lot has happened since, but all is well, and knock on wood.
Absolutely. I love to knock on wood. Yeah, but I do want to ask you, I mean, I'm a father too. You have how many kids?
I have one son.
You know what? First of all,
9 months old.
Congratulations on fatherhood. I see some ecstatic pictures of you online, enjoying the snow and just having a ball. In this shorter period of time, you're going to be able to answer this question a lot better in a few years, but how has it opened your heart becoming a father?
Well, that's interesting. I mean, first of all, I never honestly thought I would be a father, in the profession and that I'm in, simply because music, music, like Duke Ellington said, music is my mistress. But, so I was fortunate enough to find a woman who actually supported the fact that I am who I am, and being a musician was just fine, and she was proud the fact that I am a musician. So I knew I felt blessed in that way, and then we decided to start a family. And by having a child, really, not that music has taken a back seat, but I have a mini me, so to speak, and I want to do whatever I can and have to do to father this child in a way that my parents did for me, and I just want to at least give him the same experience, if not more. And music is, and the way that's opened me up is, it's just gave me this feeling of joy. More, and it's being a musician can be lonely out there, especially if you're single. But I guess what I'm trying to say, my music has more of a purpose now, and
interesting.
Do you
feel like in some way? I mean, it's humbling's the wrong word because it's a joyous thing. But, if you're really engaged at that level as a father, I mean, you're doing things for your son that, ultimately are like, more domesticated kind of thing. So ultimately, do you feel like you can even be more yourself on the bandstand? Have you become more liberated in some way since you actually, created this human being?
You know what? That's a great way to put it. And I'm actually, yes, I think I've really found my identity as far as a man, a husband, and a father goes, and a musician. We spend a lot of time trying to figure out who we are and please every musician. Well, as far as being a musician, you want to please everyone that you perform with, and you want to call, make sure you get that call back a second time. And,
I did.
And which doesn't always, in my case, to be honest, doesn't always happen. And, I've come to realize that that's okay, because we're not meant to connect with everyone. But the people that I do connect with on and off the stage is very special as far as I'm concerned. And, but as far as, being home, I do have more responsibilities when I'm home. I try to, especially, working late nights, and my wife goes to work in the morning, and then I have the baby, and I have to give him my 1,000%, like the music, and so I'm just trying to do the best I can.
No, I mean, I love your temperament. I mean, I tell you, I have. I come up, I fall short a little bit at night. I'm pretty out of it, and sometimes I'm putting whatever. It's just going to be an interesting evolution as you go along, especially if you have more kids. Being able to, but Carmen, I just it's great, so great to connect with you. I just wanted to know, if basically. How you learn to feel the music. I mean, it says, I know you're a graduate of Juilliard, prestigious institution that back in the 60s didn't really even have a jazz program. Mm-hmm. But, you're playing with a lot of the titans of music, guys that were playing well before we were born. And I just wanted you to talk about an experience where you really were able to learn to feel, because in today's world we have a lot of cats now, huge technical chops, monster chops, but sometimes you just wind up tuning it out because there's no real feel. And when you listen to Clifford Jarvis or Joe Chambers or Mike Clark or these cats, they could play a wrong note, but there's no wrong notes. You know what I'm saying? So could you?
That's right.
You talk a little bit about how you learned to feel the music?
Sure. Well, first of all, thanks for recognizing that about my playing.
Absolutely.
Which today seems to, at least the perception is, chops first. But I think as far as feeling the music, I think that's just a natural thing that's unique to each person. I guess when I was younger, at least this is what my father tells me, I would be in the car seat and driving along, he would put on James Brown or especially Rick James, because I'm from Buffalo, New York.
Oh, yeah.
So was Rick.
Oh, yeah.
So, and my dad always would tell me that as soon as he put on the music, I would bounce in my seat. So what that tells me is I was feeling the music.
Right. Absolutely.
Then.
Absolutely.
And as far as bringing that into the drums, I mean, growing up, I would at a very young age, at 12 years old, I would play with big bands in Buffalo, and of course, a lot of the musicians were in their 70s. So here I am, 12 years old, and these musicians, we would play like dances. So, of course, I wanted to, try to play Buddy Rich and get my chops out, and then when I would do that, the guys would basically yell at me and say, "Hey, man, the people aren't dancing. Pay attention."
Was it? Hold on, I want to ask you. Was it? But this is fat. Was it? Because I mean, I got the impression that honestly, jazz stopped being danceable music well before we were born. I mean, was that the goal? Was that it was supposed to be ballroom dancing?
Exactly. We're playing like a society gig.
I did.
A
Okay.
dance.
Yeah, right on.
And the guys in their 70s, so that's what they
Yeah, you're playing.
I'm sure
you're,
they came up with that.
Right, you're
know?
playing Buddy Rich drum solos. They're
Yeah,
like, dude,
I'm like 12 years old, hot shot, you know, and really that kind of clicked in my head about, you know, trying to make it feel good, and not to take away from your technique, because as far as your instrument goes, you still have to have technique to play it proficiently, and I just to add, I always studied the drums since I was 4 years old until I went to college. I mean, locally in Buffalo, I had a lesson every week. So it wasn't that I didn't have any chops, but the feeling I had to pay some more attention to the feel and what the drummer has to add to the group. And I guess that's how it started. And you know, and over the time in my professional career, you know, a lot of musicians, elder statesmen, have taken notice to it. And so I mean, I was, you know, I've always wanted to perform with older musicians. I wanted to learn, be around them. I wanted to hook up with their demeanor and how they ran bands and how they just make everyone feel good. And really, that's my goal.
I'm loving art, Carmen. By the way, can you pronounce your last name for the audience?
Intorre.
Intorre. Already having a ball with this cat. Do you know a drummer named Richard Quintanal?
I do not.
It's okay. He's an old school cat. He actually started in Los Angeles, wound up playing with a bunch of bands out there. I wanted to read you this quote I just transcribed and just sort of have you riff on it, because you were talking about playing Buddy Rich, and they're like, yo, man, the cats can't dance. But this is what I got from the interview. He said, Ralph Humphrey, the drummer, he goes, and I had grown up together in Castro Valley, California. We were in Don Ellis's band together. And when an opening happened, Don was looking for another drummer. We actually had 3 drummers in the band, 3 drum sets and percussion. We had different percussion parts. We would play drum set parts. Whenever the band played, people would stand up and cheer. Obviously, a lot of drum kicking a big band made that happen. And I mean, that's the part of it today that is so vexing to me, is that this idea that all I want to go and see is a couple of dudes or 2 or 3 guys with trap sets and percussion. That's what makes people dance. You know what I'm trying to get at? I mean, have you played in a double drum setting, and did you ever play in that kind of context? I mean, I guess what I'm getting at is that, you know, there's the idea of feel, and then there's the idea of, you know, these rhythms, these polyrhythms that ultimately they're inspiring, cathartic for non-musicians who are watching.
Well, I think the drum is a form of communication. I mean, that goes all the way back. So I guess when if you have more than one drummer and a percussionist, and you're in sync, and it's grooving, and it's just explosive. You know, I mean, I think that's the simplest answer I can come up with, because we've all experienced something like that, one or another. Like the Allman Brothers, they have 2 drummers.
Right.
You know, and they're in sync. It's not like they're battling each other. And just that power is like, I think that's what makes that band unique. I've played in a band, actually jammed with other drummers in bands, and it's so powerful, especially but you have to play together. You know, regardless of, you know, who you're playing with, it's got to be together, and just let it ride and let it fly.
Can you talk about who, like, in those experiences? You're right. You don't want to get in each other's way when you're playing double drums. But I mean, can you talk about how you? Like, I talked to Keltner about it, because he was in Mad Dogs and Englishmen with Jim Gordon. He never liked playing double drums because he always felt that, again, this is a live gig. I know you were just kind of just jamming with these cats, but he just said, like, you always felt like that you were inhibited, that one of the drummers had to hold back a little bit and not really be able to play their own thing,
I guess so. I mean, look at Motown. I mean, that happened a lot. Two drummers, but it's like, or James Brown. It's like, as far as holding back a little bit, it's like, I don't know if that's.
Well, you know what it was? The common misconception is that, and I've interviewed Stubble and Jabbo both. Those guys, they were never playing at the same time. Maybe a little bit, but they were. James would call one up and then the other. But you know what? You know what it is? I love rhythm, and when and it's the idea. Like, when have you ever worked with a drum machine or a drum track? Because it's so interesting. I've been obsessed with talking to all these old school cats, these drummers, and they talk about, before, whether it was Mickey Roker or, Clifford Jarvis or, whoever it was, they were you could put on an album and be like, oh yeah, that's Max Roach. That's, Mickey Roker, that, you could tell by the individual style. And then when the drum machine came along, Rick Marotta said, he goes, it was interesting and hard because all of a sudden you have human beings trying to replicate a machine sound, a sound that's coming from a machine. So you lose that individuality. And I wonder, and this is the question. The question is, not just so you were bouncing in the car seat to James Brown and the R&B and soul to feel the music, but can you talk about where a gig early in your professional career where you felt like your ears grew the most?
Well, that's simple. That's the first time I performed with Joey DeFrancesco. And it was, first of all, like most of the legends that you hear about in their groups, there are no rehearsals. And Joey comes from that. I mean, he came up playing with Miles at 17. So, of course, there's no rehearsal. And so I'll be honest with you, I was very nervous, but at the same time I was so excited I couldn't sleep. So we get to I think the gig was in Toronto, Canada, and I'm subbing for his drummer at the time, Byron Landum, who was a hero of mine also.
Incredible drummer, yeah.
Incredible drummer. So, I mean, it's big shoes to fill. So I get on the bandstand and I don't know what the heck we're gonna play. And Joey starts playing, by himself. And then right then and there, I realized I had to listen so intently that it's like, otherwise I'd be left in the dust. and
now, okay, let me stop you there. So if you had your the ideal scenario, and Joey was a guy who liked the R word, rehearsal, and you would be more in tune with what was coming if you had rehearsed, right? So therefore you didn't have the rehearsal, so your ears had to be wide open. Is that right?
That's right.
Oh, I love it.
That's
I dig.
Right.
Yeah, I dig.
And to be honest with you, because it was so spontaneous, and you had to listen, and ultimately you gotta play as a trio and make some beautiful music. I was playing, and it was recorded, mind you. So that was another level of nervousness.
I did.
So
yeah. Dig.
After the gig, we were listening to this CD that was made off the board, and man, I never played like that in my life.
Wow.
I was just reacting to the music, and he was so happy and thrilled and encouraging that it's like he made me feel like I had done a great job, and it actually, that's what sparked it for me. This creativity and really, it's all about listening. And that was like my first real experience on like, a national stage with a national artist like that.
Could you talk about what was different about your more in your style as opposed, because I mean it's funny, a cat that he had to just cancel. I was going to have Di Meola on for part 2.
Oh.
Di Meola, a lot of people don't know this. When he was playing a New Year's Eve gig with Barry Miles. Barry, have you played with Barry at all?
No.
Because so Barry was relayed to me a similar story about in the car seat. When the music was on, or maybe the windshield wipers, he'd have his feet going in time to the windshield wipers. It's just very interesting that you brought that up. But when before Return to Forever, Di Meola took a hit of acid, LSD, on New Year's Eve and played this concert, and his friend taped it, and then he got somehow he got the tape to Chick. And Chick was like, "I want this cat to play in my band," and when Di Meola heard the tape, he said, "That doesn't sound anything like my guitar playing." Now you couldn't put that towards psychedelics, but can you talk about what was different about your playing when you heard that playback from the board tape?
Well, what I think was different, if I can remember, was how I was reacting to the music from the drums. I mean, I wasn't playing any of quote unquote Carmen's cliches. It was opening me. I was doing things, which to back up, which was very reminiscent of, because I know he was on your show, was very reminiscent of Billy Hart, who was one of my teachers at the time.
Right.
This was after I played this gig with Joey after the first year of college which was at the New School, and I was 20 years old. So Billy was my teacher. So he mostly taught in a way to conceptually thinking about making music and how to go about this. It wasn't technically, snare drum exercises and this and that, but it just kind of it just I don't know, it just kind of it inspired Joey to want to play. So right then and there it's like a big, that's a big accomplishment, especially for someone playing a gig for the first time with him.
Why are you? No, I did. Why have you fit into the? You talk about DeFrancesco. Benson's on your resume. Obviously, you and Pat are you're like, playing. You're his drummer. And what is it about the organ trio? How have you wound up? That's not cliche. That to me, all I want to do is go back to I was born in '78, but I just want to go back because Billy James and Don Patterson. I mean, I remember talking to Bobby Pierce, great piano player, and he was saying to me, he said, man, I got a gig with those guys, and I think it was Billy James who was drumming at the time. He said, man, you'll see. He's like, as we go along on this tour, other bands, our stamina is so strong because they just kept going and going and going. We're gonna out, stamina people. That is not easy music to play. How have you fit? And it's such an intoxicating thing, and it's kind of a lost art. You don't see the B3. You see modified B3s and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You just don't see. How have you found? How did you get into? Why are you marinating in the soul jazz world, man?
That's funny you say that because a lot of people have observed that also.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And they say, hey, man, you're like the organ drummer. And I mean, honestly, it wasn't something that I specifically sought out. It's like I'm only gonna play with organ players. It's just I think it comes from my early days in Buffalo, because if you don't know too much about Buffalo is a very small city, but there's a lot of great musicians, and it's old school. in the way that there were a lot of organ joints when I was growing up. When I was younger, which, I mean, the whole chitlin circuit thing is way before our time. I'm only 2 years younger than you.
Okay, so you're younger. So you're telling me though that there were still, I mean, and then
there were still joints with organs in them.
Love it. Okay.
And they had, and it'd be, my dad would take me to I think a place was called the Mirage or something, and he'd take me to the Mirage on a weekday, on a school night, and we play there all night. This little kid, get my son, can he sit in? Can he sit in? And I was, and we weren't playing anything like technically difficult. It was all groove. It was like one tune that you had to know if you were gonna sit in with guys was Mr. Magic and Grover Washington Jr. So
yeah, right.
So it's like this is what I was playing as a teenager. So I just kind of had that sound, and then my one of my first live concerts, I saw Joey DeFrancesco, which blew me away. That was it. I wanted to be a musician after seeing these guys play, and that just kind of seeped in, and I guess my playing in that way is it's not forceful, but it's confident in a way that kind of works with the organ, especially if you're a strong organ player, because the organ, as you know, you got bass, you're comping, it's like a whole orchestra in itself. So you can't have a weak drummer, tiptoeing. You got to just hit.
You got to drive the band.
Yeah, you got to drive the band.
Yeah, that's
basically.
right.
That's right. And I don't know. It just kind of, guys just kind of took notice, and hopefully they continue to, because that would be good for me. Because there's a lot of guys I haven't played with that I hope to.
Well, you've already. Listen, you're 36. This to me, you talk about Benny Golson, cat that I need to talk to, and a guy like these.
Great.
Can you talk about how you first? What's the right word? Not the first time you met on the bandstand with Pat Martino.
It's an interesting story.
Yeah, I would love to talk. Just break it down.
I'll try to do my best in a
yeah, no, I mean,
short version.
This is long form. Go ahead, man. Just all the most. The point is this: I know Pat personally. I've gone to his brownstone. The guy has literally lived one of the most authentic musical lives. He's never sold out to big companies. He's never done any of that crap. He's always stayed true to himself. And on top of that, he's a complete genius. Benson referred to him this week when George Benson I interviewed. He said he a young wizard. Benson was ready to pack up and go back to Pittsburgh after he saw Pat. So I just wanted you to talk about. You can break the whole thing down because there's, Pat instilled a lot of faith and confidence in me to go on my trip. So and I know.
Oh, great!
So go ahead, riff on that.
Yeah. Well, first of all, Pat is a genius, and very welcoming and if you know Pat, that's who he is. He's very genuine and has a lot of love. So the way I see now it's all going to come full circle. Now I already had a relationship with Joey and Byron, and when I first moved to New York to study at the New School, which I was there 2 years before I started Juilliard. So that's how that happened. But I was studying with Billy Hart, like I said, which Billy was supposed to make this week at the Iridium in New York with Joey and Pat. He couldn't make it, so Byron made the hit. Okay? And this is right before that Live in Yoshi's record.
Exactly.
And so Billy sends me down. He says, hey, man, I know you know Joey, so maybe he can get you on the list. And can you go down there and like really peep the music for me, so I can learn it?
Sure, sure.
When I get back.
You were a scout. You were scouting.
I was scouting, yeah, and I was like, yeah, okay. I mean, like, I was green. I didn't know what was going on, so I hung out every day, every set during this whole week, and I got to meet Pat, and he saw this little kid, in the dressing room, and like, he didn't say too much to me, but he took notice. Fast forward, maybe what was it, 12 years or so.
That Yoshi CD was like 2001 or so. I don't know.
Yeah. So fast forward to, I think I joined his band in 2011.
But anyway, he didn't say anything to you that time, right?
No, he just saw this little kid in the back in the dressing room at the Iridium who was friends with Joey.
Right.
And so remember, I was learning this music all these years leading up. So when I finally got a chance that I would share the stage with Pat, he was a guest with Joey and I once again at the Iridium. And this is 2011, so this is the first time we played. And he turned around and said, "You were that kid that was coming around, blah, blah, blah." And what was interesting is I think Pat was trying to set me up or see what I was made of, because about 5 days before our hit, he sends me a book of 30 tunes.
Wow.
And he said, "Hey, man, I can call any one of these tunes, so, try to learn them." I'm like freaking out, because I was like, how am I going to learn all these tunes in 5 days? Then I started doing my research. I started listening, blah, blah, blah. I knew, 80% of the tunes. Like, really knew them inside and out.
Right.
So we get on the bandstand, and we're sound checking, and he starts calling these tunes, and he's like, do you have the music, man? And I said, no, I think I'm okay. I'm okay. And we just had a ball. And he would play, and he'd turn around to me, just kind of give me a little smile. So
what a beautiful story. Because
very encouraging. And I basically joined the band shortly after that.
The thing is that Pat, it's just ironic. I mean, literally, Pat wasn't a drummer, but he was this young, small kid with great Italian hair, playing with Willis Jackson. I mean, and yet he could almost outplay anybody. That's what Benson thought he was. He thought he was the man. He was playing with Jack McDuff, and there's Pat, this sort of just small, frail guy, good-looking kid, and I just love the part in the lineage, the idea of him looking around and saying, "Yeah, you know what, Carmen, he's got it together." Can you talk about Pat's nonverbal leadership, communication style on the bandstand? I often find that to be, we hang on words so much in today's society, whether it's domestically, in the political realm, and you guys on the bandstand, there's a lot of nonverbal communication. I just wanted you to talk about Pat's style.
Well, Pat is very, I don't know if you want to call it Zen master.
Something like that.
Something like that. But he carries himself with distinction.
Yeah, I agree.
And with a lot of class, and on and off the bandstand, which is not easy to do, as far as I'm concerned.
I agree completely.
But on stage, here's this guy sitting on his stool with his legs crossed, very, nonchalant, and he's just burning on the guitar with like minimum effort. And here I am, I'm behind the drums, and I'm over here sweating, and he's making me work, and it's like, I just at the end of the gig, I said, Pat, how do you do that, man? How do you do it? And he just laughs. He just laughs. He's like, oh man, you're doing it. You're doing it.
It's like that's not the answer I was looking for.
Yeah,
man.
it's like you want something specific, but I think it's like by watching him, it's not like he's waving the guitar all over the stage and he's very focused, and I think that's a great lesson right there is the focus.
Yes. Right.
Which is very hard because there's a lot of distractions, especially on the bandstand.
I think that's the Zen part of it there too.
That's right.
Right.
That's right. And I think that's why he's a small guy, but he's a strong guy. Strong musician and strong mind, and that comes out in his playing quite a bit.
I wanted to ask you. I know I saw you share once it became verifiable news on not Jake Feinberg's feed, but on CNN, the near tragedy with David Garibaldi and the bass player recently in Jack London Square. For those that don't know, they were hit by a train and narrowly survived, I think, prior to a gig the other night. Can you talk about what Garibaldi is? I mean, have you had any personal interaction with David? Also, what do you consider him as far in the lexicon of drumming? Obviously you respect him, but can you talk about David? I mean, he's lucky to be alive, but he's another cat that I came out of nowhere and really opened him up, and we've done 3 interviews, and I was very bummed out about the news. Could you talk about David and what he's meant to you?
Sure. I mean, first of all, there's tragic news, and I know that area. I've played at the club, and I know, about crossing the street and watching the train. So, I mean, it really freaked me out that could actually happen, and and I feel really bad for these guys. And I do hope that they recover, have a full recovery and successful recovery, because that's we need these guys.
We do, and they will recover. But they're lucky because there was a fatality, but not a musician, but I mean I just
very sorry to hear that.
But what in your mind, what is Garibaldi's imprint on music? What has he done? What is his what is his stamp? What has he meant to you? What is he inspired you?
Well, I mean, is first of all I consider him. Well, first of all, he's a groove master. Mm-hmm. We all know that. Mm-hmm. Pocket. We all know that. But to me, which is even more is his groove, his syncopation. The way he creates a groove is like, it's not just 4 on the floor, 2 and 4 on the snare drum. I mean, it's like sophisticated funk.
I think that's a Jack McDuff album, actually. That's such a great line. Yeah, I love it, dude.
I mean, there's sophistication there, and even though what do you call them? Tower Power, soul, funk, R&B, whatever you want to label them as. I mean, it's as far as I'm concerned, the way the rhythm and the feeling, that's like jazz to me. It's the same thing to me, and it's because it's sophistication. And when I listen to like these grooves, and I mean I try to transcribe them by ear. I mean that's heavy stuff. That's like transcribing, I don't know, Bird or something, for a horn player. it opened me up. The first time I heard Garibaldi, it just really opened me up to the possibilities about, like, there's sophistication in other music, not just jazz. So it really, I stopped being a jazz snob, quote unquote, and I started to discover a lot of music out there.
I dig.
And that was, he was one of the reasons why. And that's actually, then I started to get into Mike Clark, because that's kind of similar. Then I find out that they're from the same area, and it's just, it's all full circle. It's funny how it's all related.
Yeah, before I let you go, I was just like, I'm taking some grief right now because I did a long interview with Ted Nugent, and it's like, the cat grew up in Detroit and Chicago, and I have him talking about going to Baker's Keyboard Lounge. It's probably a place you've played.
Several times.
He here's Ted Nugent going there, telling me a story about going to see Yusef Lateef creating sonic, or Sun Ra. And it's all connected. So it's like, I just think music, especially in this time, is just so important because it's universal language, as Booker T said. And as far as I'm concerned, man, one reason I love you is because you are a bridge to the future for younger cats to develop individual sound and to really be inspired by individual sound and not go towards conformity. So let's plan on doing part 2 down the road, man. And
okay, that would be great.
Yeah, and I'm going to call Pat and tell him to get his butt out to Tucson for I know Joey lives in Phoenix. I just love to see you guys play and meet you at some point, man. I really appreciate everything that you're doing sonically, and congrats on fatherhood, man.
I appreciate it very much, Jake.
Love always, man. We'll be in touch.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Bye-bye. And we'll be right back with a legend. He's coming here this Thursday, to perform at the Fox Theater as part of the Tucson Jazz Festival 3rd Annual. George Benson, my guest next on The Jake Feinberg Show.